Chupa Chupa. A supermarket shelf does not reward the fruit with the most unusual flavor. It rewards the fruit that can survive harvesting, packing, transport, storage, and several days under bright store lights. Chupa Chupa begins with a disadvantage, because its large, irregular fruits can approach 2 kilograms, while the orange pulp inside is divided by several large seeds and a web of soft fibers. In its native western Amazon, people can wait until the fruit develops its sweet mixture of melon, mango, and apricot, then eat it close to the tree. Exporters would need every fruit to mature at a similar rate, fit standard packaging, and remain attractive through a long journey. Bananas can be harvested green and ripened under controlled conditions, but Chupa Chupa has no comparable commercial system. Its flavor may be memorable, yet flavor alone cannot carry a fruit across the world. Davidson's plum. The race against time becomes even more difficult with this dark purple fruit from the rainforests of eastern Australia. Its vivid crimson flesh has an intense acidity often compared to cranberry and rhubarb, making it valuable for sauces, jams, desserts, and drinks. Fresh Davidson's plums, however, soften quickly and are usually too sour for casual eating. Cranberries overcame a similar problem because a large industry developed around juice, dried fruit, and sauce, while Davidson's plum is still supplied mainly by native food growers and smaller farms. Freezing or turning the fruit into puree protects its flavor and gives chefs more time to use it, but those solutions also remove the whole fruit from the produce aisle. The fruit has not disappeared from commerce completely. It has simply entered the market in forms that travel better than the fresh plum itself. Malay Apple. Its smooth red or pink skin makes this Southeast Asian fruit look as though it should travel as easily as a conventional apple, but the resemblance ends at the surface. Malay Apple has crisp, watery flesh with a mild sweetness and a delicate floral aroma. Those qualities are most noticeable soon after harvesting, when the fruit is firm and full of moisture. During transport, it bruises easily, gradually loses that freshness, and can arrive looking tired even when it is still edible. Conventional apples can spend months in controlled storage because decades of breeding and infrastructure have been built around them. Malay apple usually moves through local tropical markets where the journey from tree to customer is much shorter. Without the same storage technology, recognized varieties, and dependable international demand, its best quality disappears before an ordinary supermarket can sell it. Nance. This cherry-sized yellow fruit grows across Mexico, Central America, northern South America, and the Caribbean, where it is used in desserts, sauces, ice cream, and fermented drinks. Its soft, oily flesh can taste sweet and tart at the same time, while its powerful aroma is sometimes compared to fermented cheese. That scent is part of the authentic Nance experience. But it also creates a commercial obstacle because unfamiliar shoppers may interpret the aroma as a sign that the fruit has spoiled. The fruit genuinely does deteriorate quickly after harvesting, leaving little time to sort, cool, ship, and display it. Local producers solve the problem by converting the harvest into jam, syrup, frozen pulp, or regional drinks. A distant supermarket would need to teach customers what the fruit should smell like while racing against its short useful life, which is an expensive challenge for a product most shoppers cannot yet recognize. Pulasan. A delicate fruit can also disappear because a more familiar relative reaches the market first. Pulasan comes from Southeast Asia and is closely related to rambutan and lychee. Its dark red shell has short, thick projections, while the pale flesh inside is often described as richer and sweeter than rambutan. The problem is not a lack of flavor, but the absence of an established export machine. Rambutan already has commercial varieties, experienced growers, recognized packaging, and customers who know how to open it. Pulasan remains concentrated in small farms, private gardens, and fruit collections, with a shorter and less predictable supply. Its tender flesh also demands careful handling in a hot, humid climate. For an importer, introducing Pulasan means taking on greater uncertainty to sell something shoppers may mistake for another fruit they already know. The familiar competitor therefore wins the shelf space before the flavor comparison can even begin. Pitomba. This small orange-yellow fruit from Brazil reveals another poor trade for commercial sellers. Its thin skin surrounds soft aromatic pulp with a flavor that can suggest apricot and citrus, but a large central seed occupies much of the fruit. A pitomba may measure only a few centimeters across, so the amount of edible flesh is modest compared with the labor required to harvest, sort, and package it. Table grapes offer many seedless bites in a single cluster, while Pitomba asks the customer to handle each small fruit separately for a limited reward. Its ripe pulp is also too soft for rough transport, and production remains concentrated among home growers and rare fruit collectors. Pitomba can be excellent when eaten directly from the tree, but the qualities that make it charming in a garden make it inefficient in a distribution system built around speed, volume, and edible yield. Kwai Muk. Transport is only the first filter because some fruits struggle before a shipment can even be assembled. Kwai Muk is a small velvety fruit from southern China and a relative of jackfruit. Its golden flesh may combine sweetness with flavors resembling apricot, citrus, and strawberry, yet trees grown from seed can produce noticeably different results. One may offer soft, flavorful fruit, while another may be more acidic, fibrous, or affected by latex. Supermarkets depend on named varieties because customers expect the same product each time they return. Commercial apples, grapes, and mangoes are not random examples of their species. They are selected varieties grown for consistent size, flavor, appearance, and storage performance. Kwai Muk has never received the same level of breeding and commercial investment. Slow-growing trees and variable harvests make it difficult for growers to promise thousands of nearly identical fruits on a fixed schedule. Green Sapote. This Central American fruit demonstrates how difficult ripening can become when a crop lacks an established handling system. Its plain green skin hides orange or reddish flesh with a smooth texture and a sweet flavor that may suggest pumpkin, sweet potato, and warm spices. Green sapote must be mature when harvested, yet it becomes increasingly soft as it approaches its best eating stage. If picked too early, the flavor and texture may never develop properly. If left too long, the fruit becomes vulnerable to bruising before reaching the customer. Avocados face a similar problem, but a global industry now uses maturity standards, controlled storage, specialized packaging, and ripening rooms to manage them. Green sapote has none of that infrastructure at a comparable scale. The fruit is not impossible to transport, but building an entire system for a product with little existing demand would cost more than most suppliers are willing to risk. Blue Jaboticaba, also called blue grape or false Jaboticaba. This dark blue fruit comes from parts of Central and Northern South America. Its pale pulp has a mild, sweet, and tart flavor, while the thick skin and central seed leave less edible material than a seedless supermarket grape. The slow-growing trees are mostly found in private collections and small tropical plantings rather than commercial vineyards. That difference changes everything. Grapes can be harvested in large uniform clusters, cooled rapidly, packed in standardized containers, and purchased from established producers across several regions. Blue Jaboticaba arrives in smaller, less predictable quantities from trees that were often planted for curiosity rather than industrial production. Even if the fruit survives transport, an importer still has to explain what it is, why its skin is thicker, and why customers should pay more for less flesh. Without answers strong enough to create regular demand, the supply never grows. Governor's plum. Uniformity becomes even harder to achieve with this small red or purple fruit from tropical parts of Africa and Asia. The flesh may be pleasantly sweet and tart on one tree, but more acidic or astringent on another. Such variation is acceptable when families gather fruit from a familiar local plant, yet it becomes a problem when a retailer promises thousands of customers the same experience. Governor's plum trees also carry thorns, while the fruits are small and contain seeds that reduce the edible portion. Harvesting, therefore, requires considerable hand labor for a product with little recognition outside its traditional regions. Commercial success would require selected varieties with reliable flavor, organized orchards, safer harvesting methods, and enough demand to pay for those improvements. Until that happens, Governor's plum remains better suited to local preserves, drinks, and fresh eating than to standardized supermarket distribution. Kei Apple. This yellow or orange fruit comes from southern Africa and grows on a dense shrub armed with long, sharp thorns. The plant is so effective as a barrier that it is commonly valued as a living fence, but the same feature makes commercial harvesting slow and uncomfortable. Some plants produce male flowers while others produce female flowers, So growers must also maintain the right planting arrangement to obtain dependable crops. When fully ripe, Kei apple can be juicy and refreshing, although its strong acidity often makes it more suitable for jelly, sauce, syrup, or preserves than for eating out of hand. A commercial orchard would need to manage pollination, protect workers from thorns, and persuade shoppers to choose a tart, unfamiliar fruit over established alternatives. The plant succeeds remarkably well as protection for a garden, yet the qualities that make it a useful hedge work directly against its development as an efficient orchard crop. Pindo palm fruit. These golden fruits grow in dense clusters on ornamental palms native to southern South America. Their aroma may suggest pineapple or apricot, and the sweet tart flesh can be turned into jelly, wine, and other preserves. Each fruit is only a few centimeters across, contains a large, hard seed, and may have fibers that make fresh eating less convenient. The fruits within a cluster do not always ripen at exactly the same moment, while fully mature specimens often fall to the ground and become bruised. In warm weather, damaged fruit can begin fermenting before anyone organizes a commercial harvest. Most pindo palms were planted to decorate gardens, streets, and public spaces, rather than to supply managed orchards. Gathering scattered fruit, separating it from the seeds, and processing the small amount of pulp makes sense for a local recipe, but rarely for a supermarket purchasing system that expects efficient harvesting and predictable volume. Illawarra Plum. Harvesting becomes a different challenge when the fruit grows on a tall Australian rainforest tree. Illawarra plum is a dark blue-purple native food, with an unusual structure, because its hard seed appears attached to the outside of the fleshy edible portion. The flavor is mild, sweet, tart, and slightly resinous, allowing the fruit to work well in sauces, jams, chutneys, and desserts. Trees growing in the wild or from unselected seed can vary in height, yield, fruit size, and flavor, making large, standardized harvests difficult. The Australian native food industry has created demand among chefs and specialty producers, but it remains much smaller than the industries surrounding conventional plums or berries. Freezing and processing allows suppliers to preserve the harvest and provide a consistent ingredient, while selling the delicate whole fruit would require rapid collection, cooling, and distribution from a limited number of trees. Mammee Apple. Not every barrier is created on the farm, because some begin when the customer tries to eat the fruit. Mammee apple comes from the Caribbean and tropical Americas, producing large round fruits with thick brown skin and fragrant orange or yellow flesh. The flavor may recall apricot, mango, and warm spices, but preparation is less obvious than peeling an orange. The outer skin and the bitter membrane beneath it must be removed carefully, while the large seeds are not eaten. People who grow up with the fruit understand these steps, just as experienced shoppers know how to judge a mango or prepare a pineapple. New customers may not know which parts to discard or how to recognize perfect ripeness. A supermarket would therefore need to provide education alongside an irregular seasonal supply. Without a familiar eating ritual, even an attractive flavor can remain commercially invisible. Indian fig, prickly pear. This cactus fruit proves that disappearance from supermarkets is never universal. Prickly pear is common in parts of Mexico, the Mediterranean, North Africa, and the Middle East, and it does appear in stores where customers already understand it. Elsewhere, it remains a specialty item because its skin carries tiny hair-like spines called glochids. Commercial fruit must be cleaned before sale, but shoppers may still hesitate to touch something associated with invisible spines. Beneath the skin is sweet, juicy flesh filled with many small, hard seeds, creating another unfamiliar eating experience. The fruit can also bruise during transport, even though the cactus itself survives harsh heat and drought. Prickly pear is not absent because it cannot become commercial. It succeeds wherever knowledge, demand, and careful handling already exist. Its uneven availability shows that culture can matter as much as biology. Osage Orange. This green wrinkled fruit presents the clearest reversal because its absence has little to do with a failed supply chain. Native to the central United States, Osage Orange contains dense fibers, numerous seeds, sticky latex, and very little practical food value for people. Its surface attracts attention, but opening and processing it does not provide the simple reward expected from supermarket fruit. The tree became important for completely different reasons. Indigenous communities valued its strong, flexible wood for bows, while later settlers used the durable timber for fence posts and planted the thorny trees as living barriers. Calling it an orange creates an expectation that the fruit never intended to meet. Supermarkets do not reject Osage Orange because it ripens too quickly or costs too much to ship. They reject it because unusual appearance alone cannot turn every botanical fruit into a useful commercial food. Olosapo. This yellow Central American fruit depends so heavily on timing that its best moment can look like spoilage to an inexperienced buyer. When immature, Olosapo may be hard and strongly astringent. When fully ripe, its flesh becomes very soft, with a texture compared to egg yolk or custard, and a flavor that may suggest caramel, pumpkin, and warm spices. Some fruits reach their best condition only after softening on the tree or falling naturally, leaving little time before physical damage begins. Supermarkets normally prefer fruit that appears firm and flawless, even when softness is the correct sign of ripeness. Selling Olosapo would require careful handling and customer education, followed by rapid consumption. Small-scale cultivation and trees that take years to produce add further uncertainty. The fruit does not merely challenge it challenges the visual rules shoppers use to decide whether food is fresh. Yuzu. This aromatic East Asian citrus marks the point where a fruit can reach the global market by no longer traveling as a whole fruit. Yuzu has rough skin, many seeds, and relatively little juice, so it is poorly suited to the role played by an orange or lemon. Its greatest value lies in the intensely fragrant peel and the complex juice used in sauces, marinades, sweets, drinks, and seasonings. Whole citrus also faces plant health restrictions in many international supply chains because pests and diseases can travel with fresh fruit. Producers found a more practical route by selling bottled juice, frozen zest, paste, vinegar, and prepared sauces. These products last longer, cross borders more easily, and give customers the flavor without asking them to understand the fruit. Yuzu did not overcome the supermarket system by becoming better fresh produce. It succeeded by becoming an ingredient. Phalsa, sherbet berry. This tiny purple South Asian fruit completes the same transformation under even greater pressure. Phalsa berries ripen during a short warm season, do not all mature at once, and must be gathered repeatedly by hand. Their sweet tart and lightly astringent flesh is refreshing in hot weather, but the berries soften so quickly that long-distance fresh distribution is rarely practical. Instead, growers turn them into sherbet, syrup, juice, and other cooling drinks close to the harvest area. Processing combines many fragile berries into a stable product, while preserving the flavor people value most. That result explains the larger pattern behind every fruit in this video. A supermarket is not a museum of everything nature can produce, and it does not automatically select the most flavorful species. It selects what can be standardized, transported, recognized, and sold before time destroys its value.